I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Yes or no? Did you ever take banned substances to enhance your cycling performance?
Yes.
I had no prior knowledge of the planned assault on Nancy Kerrigan.
I am deeply sorry for my irresponsible and selfish behavior I engaged in.
What's up, everybody? Oops, the podcast. Happy Friday. I am Giulio Gallerati. I am joined by the wonderful, the intelligent, the fun to be around, Francis Ellis.
Oh, these are nice. These are nice superlatives. Thanks, G. How are you, man?
I'm doing all right, dude. How are you?
Dude, I'm well. I'm pretty solid. You know who's not doing well? Rich Brian.
Who's that?
Do you know who Rich Brian is?
No.
He used to go by Rich Chiga, but he realized that was problematic.
Okay, yeah. What happened to him? I remember him.
So Rich Brian is 20 years old now, right? And today, a bunch of his old tweets surfaced that he wrote when he was 13.
Ooh, you got to get tweet delete, Rich Brian.
12 and 13 years old. He said he's making jokes about using the word dyke, using the word faggot, but also retarded, I think he used, a bunch of the ones that are now no good.
So is he getting in trouble or what's happening?
Well, people are trying to, but there seems to be an equal amount of counter backlash of people who are saying, this kid was 13 years old. Are we really trying to cancel him? Yada, yada.
Right. That's good. I mean, dude, if you were to break down any adult rapper's lyrics, they would all be immediately canceled.
Absolutely. But even beyond that, if I read his Wikipedia page, Rich Brian, he lived in Indonesia for his entire childhood and did not learn to speak English because he was working at his parents' cafe or something, and he didn't go to school. And so he didn't learn English until he was like 11 or 12 years old. And he learned English by watching rap videos on YouTube. Imagine if your Rosetta Stone was taught to you by like ASAP Ferg. Do you really think that you wouldn't be using the words that, are now no longer like, of course he's going to think that that's his textbook.
That's so funny. His first glimpse into the English language is through very vulgar rap songs.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's hysterical that people are trying to cancel. Not only that, but if you're trying to cancel, he's 20 now, and you're trying to cancel a 20-year-old for things that they wrote when they were 13. To me, it's like, it's one thing if you cancel somebody who wrote bad tweets when they were, 24, 25 and should have known better. And their only defense is like, well, the times were different. Those words were more acceptable back then, right? Mm-hmm. This is canceling a child, holding a very young adult accountable for things that they wrote as a child.
Yeah, that's crazy. I can't believe you even got your hands on that. I can't believe this is a story.
Well, I was on Twitter and it was sort of trending, which was like,
wow.
Rich Brian is canceled, or hashtag Rich Brian is whatever. I don't know. It's just astonishing to me that this guy would have enough haters.
Wow.
They would go back that far and dig up his old tweets. But
so much for the theory that the quarantine is making people less politically correct.
I know, dude. If anything, I think it's giving more time to the people who are hunting for the scalps of anyone who has spoken poorly in the past. Do you know Rich Brian?
I do. I remember when he came out, dude. I remember being like, this guy is just really, I'm not surprised he changed his name. You know what I mean? He realized,
He exactly. He
I'm not
realized
a fan.
He learned better English and was like, "Oh, my name is not good."
Right.
But dude, his big hit was a YouTube video, or it was a song called "Dat Stick." DAT stick, and stick was spelled with the money symbol instead of an S.
A stick is a gun, I believe.
I think that's right. Yeah. Another word for gun, by the way, is grips. Did you know that?
don't know if I did actually.
Let me get those grips.
Grips.
I'm packing grips. So he had these, he wrote that stick. Yeah. And it's the whole song. He's like, he's 14 or 15 years old. He's got this very weird, deep voice, and he's rapping about pulling up to people's houses and shooting them in his Maserati and shit. And he's
There
wearing
are guns in the video,
pack.
Right?
Yeah, but are they real?
It's always unclear.
And he's surrounded by his sort of Asian rap gang. And I mean, it's ridiculous, but and they are wearing fanny packs, yeah. And so it's like, I don't know. I don't hate this guy, and I don't hate his success. I think he was very unique and novel. Just watching him rap like this, super, dangerous and threatening as a kid. But it also, like, to come after him for it, I just think, where like, ugh, at some point you give up. I'm out of breath even thinking about how anyone would be upset about this.
So does this, and now this reminds me, obviously of what happened with you. Do you feel like you have so much compassion for people who this is happening to, or has it been long enough that you sort of don't feel emotionally connected to it anymore?
Look, I made my mistake when I was 30 years old, 2.5 years into a job where I knew that lots of people were watching and trying to, that the people who wanted to take Barstool down had their guns and their scopes trained on the company around the clock.
Right.
So I am definitely guilty of making a stupid mistake, and I should have known better. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't expect a 13-year-old kid to know better.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it makes me think that if I have kids someday, like, how tight are we? How narrow of a leash are we going to allow kids?
Right. And I think
prevent a 13-year-old from tweeting the word dyke.
And you have to be really kind of with it as a kid, or sorry, as a parent, to know about the shit your kids are even doing. Like Twitter, like his parents probably had no fucking idea what that even was.
Exactly. They're scraping by in Indonesia.
And plus, this is 7 years ago, dude. You know what I mean? Like, if they know about Twitter is now, they might not have then. You know what I mean? And like you said, yeah, they own a small cafe in Indonesia, trying to make it work.
I don't know, man. I feel bad for Rich Brian. He seems to have made a pretty good name for himself among rappers too. He seems well respected. He did this thing I saw where he brought a mariachi band to surprise Post Malone and sang a song. And it was a really cool video. And like, he's got a bunch of viral videos. His Dat Stick video has 150 million views.
Wow.
So, hopefully he comes through the other side of this.
Well, but also, Rich Brian, you shouldn't have been tweeting that shit either when you're 13. Like, let us not forget that if anyone is wrong to tweet that stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you're 13, you don't have the proper judgment, and you can make these mistakes as a teenager that you're not held accountable for as an adult. And that's how the law typically works. At least the law that I'm familiar with. There's different standards for children than there are for adults.
Have you ever done a tweet purge?
Yes. And it's funny. Someone DM'd me the other day being like, why do you delete your tweets? And I was like, I'm just scared that I said some stupid shit. And I don't think that I do. And then she actually convinced me to not do it anymore. So now I'm just going to try to be really conscious of the fact that on Twitter is a really easy spot to get got when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah. It's funny, dude. I was playing golf with my old high school lacrosse coach a couple days ago.
Oh, wow.
And I hadn't seen him in many, many years. And he was, a mentor to me and somebody who really kind of brought me along. And I was talking to him about my firing and the year that I've had. And he said, look, you didn't play it safe. You don't play it safe as a comedian. And therefore, you're gonna risk moments like that. But dude, I don't have any interest in playing it safe. You know?
Okay, bad boy. Okay,
Well,
daddy.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not. I think funnier things come out of taking risks.
Absolutely.
I prefer to see. I think the biggest laughs that I've ever gotten are often accompanied by gasps. There's a great episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Mac is the Nightman cometh, where he's going for gasps, not laughs.
Right.
And I don't know. I kind of agree with that. I'd rather be surprising than expected and slightly funny.
Fair enough, man.
I don't know.
Dude, I have a funny risk-taking story.
Bring it on.
It's far less, high stakes, but it's pretty funny still. All right. So when I first started acting, I had a manager who was trying to get me appointments and stuff, and it was hard to get auditions. And the stuff that I would typically get would be for Italian guys, which makes sense because they submit my name. I'm a nobody, and they see this name. They're like, all right, maybe this guy,
Right.
But what kept happening was I kept going in, and real Italian guys would get the part. Like from Italy, Italian guys, not like first generation, you know what I mean? So it started to be really frustrating. So finally, I auditioned for this pilot, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just pretending like I'm fully off the boat Italian this entire time. So I walk into the audition. I'm like, hello. Thank you for having me in for the appointment. I'm so excited, And like and then they asked me like to say stuff in Italian, and I kind of was like piecing together these like complicated phrases from songs that I know, like Italian songs, but not singing it, speaking it. So it was like kind of hard. And then, I read the things they were asking me about my like Italy and shit. And then I booked it. And I show up on the set. It was a pilot. It was called Americana. It didn't go to series, but it was with like Anthony LaPaglia and Ashley Greene from fucking Twilight. Remember that? I don't know, whatever. So
Vaguely, yeah.
Whatever. But I show up on set, and the director's like, oh, here's our Italian. He goes, oh, Maurizio. And I'm like, hey, what's up? And he's like, wait, I thought that you were Italian. And I'm like, oh, he's like, great. He's like, great. Our Italian isn't even Italian. And I was like, oh, fuck, but whatever. So, and in the part, I had to be like, hello, nice to see you. Hello.
Yeah.
Oh,
dude,
so
that's a tough one.
Fuck it. But whatever, dude. It didn't matter,
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to go for it.
Do you get paid for booking that?
Well.
Really?
Yeah.
So how does it work?
So that show was like, that role maybe was going to be in the rest of the show, but maybe not. So like it didn't pay crazy. But if you get like a series regular on one of these shows and you book the pilot and you shoot the pilot and you get it, you make what you're making per episode. So it's like a lot. Even if it's your first one, you're still making like $25,000, $30,000 for that.
Wait. Okay. So here's my question, right? A network orders a pilot, which means that they want them to make one episode of the show.
Right.
Right? And then they make the pilot. And that's what you did, right? You guys made the pilot?
For this one, yeah. This is for ABC, and we made the pilot.
Okay. So you make the pilot, but then the pilot doesn't go to air.
Right.
And you still got paid $25,000 or $30,000 for making
Not
that
for this.
pilot?
This part was like in the description, it was like maybe in more episodes. Like it was a thing where they weren't necessarily planning on him being a series regular. So I got paid scale for that, which was like with ADR and all this stuff. ADR is when you record shit that you're saying that like you can't see your mouth moving, so they can get it cleaner. So if it's like from far away or your back's turned, whatever. All things included, I probably made $3,000 for that.
Okay. All right. But the point is that for a pilot that gets ordered, if you're a series regular, even if that show does not go to air, you'll get paid as if it's on air.
Just for the one episode, though. So you'll make $30,000, say, $25K.
Is that what like ABC shows are? The lead actors get paid $30,000?
No. So this is how it works. So if it's your first, every time you test, your quote goes up. So like I've tested for pilots before that I didn't get cast in or whatever. And every time you go to do it again, you can argue for more. And then if you're an established name, you're making way more than that per episode.
Yeah. Huh.
As far as I know. Yeah. So it's interesting.
Wow. Okay.
Chris, what's up?
Francis, can you unplug your mic, plug it back in? It sounds weird.
Oh,
Guys, I'm
dude,
gonna
you know
pee
what?
real quick.
My mic hasn't even been plugged in. This
I
whole
knew
time.
it hasn't been. I was like, it sounds different.
Is this better? So sorry about that. I didn't even realize my mic wasn't plugged in.
All right, dude. So we got a funny email from somebody discussing. So a couple episodes ago, Francis and I talked about a would you rather. No, it wasn't a would you rather, actually. It was like, would you accept $10 million today? But the deal would be that on your 80th birthday, if you make it that far, your death is by getting hit by a train. So Francis said it was a no-brainer. Chris and I thought maybe not so much, just because the impending doom of knowing that best case scenario is you getting hit by a train, yada, yada. Some guy replied to us via email, and he said something very funny, I thought. He goes, Giulio, you are out of your mind if you are hesitant to take $10 million to die at 80. He goes, I would get hit by a train at 80 if someone would pay off my student loan. Far less significant amount. And then he goes, based on my brief research, the odds of living to 80 are about 40%. And Francis is completely right about the dip in quality of life. Getting hit by a train is quick and painless compared to rotting away from cancer or Alzheimer's at 90. Think of all the good you could do with 10 million right now. Love the podcast, especially during quarantine, Ben. Fucking Ben, man, preach it.
Ben, love that, Ben. Now, listen, he says that getting hit by a train is quick and painless. Is it?
Dude,
do we know?
We don't know anything.
Because I'll tell you one thing. I'll tell you this much. If you get hit by a train and survive, it is not painless. That's got to be one of the most painful things. Or I guess it brings to question, right? We talk about all these methods of dying. There's a hypothetical like this, it's accompanied by, you fall to your death from the Empire State Building or whatever. I just think that there are oftentimes more like these deaths are not always as clean and painless as you might think. You know what the most painless way that I can think of dying actually is?
Getting injected with something?
Well, I was going to say the guillotine.
Is it? Yeah, it seems clean.
Dude, the guillotine back in the French Revolution, like the Reign of Terror, Robespierre, all that, they would set up the guillotine in the center of town. You'd walk up. Yeah, it'd be a bummer to piss your pants in fear as you were being marched to the guillotine and put your head down, look at the dried blood spatter from your neighbor before you. But then it's just and it's curtains.
Wait, I thought the guillotine was this one, the one that swoops down like that ride at the fair.
No, I think that's like a scythe, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, so the guillotine's a straight down one?
Yeah, it's just a cleaver. Yeah, like a door frame coming down.
It's not the...
No. Wielded by a human being, you mean?
I guess you're right. I don't know how it would work. I've never really thought about the logistics of that.
Are you're talking about something that cuts wheat?
No, not like a sling blade.
Scythe, like a scythe.
Oh, it's a scythe?
Yeah.
No, it's like the thing that chops your head off clean like that. But yeah, whatever. I guess it's not a guillotine.
I've never seen a rounded scythe like that.
And it comes and it's like held from like a pendulum.
Where did you see this? Have you been to a museum that has medieval weapons and stuff?
Maybe. I'm not really sure where I'm getting this from, but this is one of those things where you just happen to miss something in your 30 whatever years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's incredible when that happens.
I know. Well, you don't see too many guillotines these days, unfortunately.
Dude, one time I did something really stupid. Someone gave me money to make a video, right? Mm-hmm. And I deposited the check. And I'm used to getting checks from my work or whatever. And you don't have to sign them. You just deposit them. And I deposited the check and it bounced. And this guy who gave it to me is a guy who had a lot of money. So I called him. I was like, hey, the check bounced that you gave me. This is awkward. He starts laughing. And he goes, which means that obviously there's plenty of funds in the account for the minuscule amount of money he's giving me. And he's like, did you sign it? And I was like, no. And then he was like, You seem like a smart guy, but sometimes things evade people in life. Very funny.
Who is
how the
this guy?
He's a Lebanese guy.
Oh, cool. God. Well, just another classic Giulio, working with Lebanon.
No, he lives here. He lives in New York.
Oh, good for him. Hey, I had a question for you. This is something I was thinking about the other day.
Sure.
Parents who beat their children.
Yeah. Well, okay.
I want to ask you about your experiences, your knowledge of parents that use physical ways to to discipline their kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not necessarily talking about like a drunken stepfather that actually like punches their kid.
Right.
That's a nightmare.
Right.
I'm talking about like spanking.
Right.
And then I guess little steps up from that. I remember when Adrian Peterson got in huge trouble because he said that he used a willow switch, which is like a twig, like a long twig to sort of whip his kid when he got out of line. And everyone went nuts. Right. And then half the people were also like, well, that's how I was raised, so it's not that, it's just a normal thing. I want to ask you, and do you have any experience? Did your parents ever put hands on you?
Like, not really. But hold on. But I agree with what you're saying in general. I'm going to answer that in a second. But like, there's so many different degrees of it. You know what I mean? Yes. It's one thing if you're flogging your child with a whip and like tying him to, torture and like.
There's torture. Exactly. There's torture. And then there's like.
Beating your kid.
Yeah.
And dude, I think that if you don't beat your kid at all or offer the risk of beating your kid might just turn into one of those kids who fucking sucks as an adult.
Okay.
It's like just a shithead, entitled, I'm always right type of kid. The type of kid who, when he went to the principal's office, his parents immediately sided with him.
Okay. So, yes, that is an extreme, right? That the absence of physical threat from the parents results in the corruption of the youth. Most people would say that there are other parenting techniques to get that method across, right?
Right.
But you also meet kids who are never beaten, who never straighten out, and you meet kids who are beaten, who never straighten out. So I'm of the mindset that, there should be another way to discipline a kid.
Right. So what do you think, though?
Well, here's the thing, okay? So it's such a cultural thing. And I remember my parents never laid a hand on me.
Right.
That shouldn't really be a surprise to anyone. Whatever. I'm just that guy, and fortunately, I turned out all right. Like, it's like I didn't need a beating. Like, I got good grades. I understood the risks. If I went out and broke curfew or, got caught stealing their booze, I would get grounded and, whatever. But I had a kid that I knew in first grade, and I would go over to his house. And I've actually brought this kid up before on the podcast. His name was Caleb. And I don't mean to like out him or whatever, but I don't think it matters. He was from South Africa. His family was from South Africa. And his parents, when I was at his house, if he did something that got him in trouble, would spank him. And this was like second or third grade, and they would sort of say like, "Come here, Caleb," and he would sheepishly walk over to where they were sitting and look at me and like, "Sorry, dude, this is going to take a second." And then he would bend himself over their knee, and they would spank him like 2 or 3 times. And they weren't like winding up; they weren't MILF huntering their child. You know what I mean?
Right.
But they were kind of just letting them know, like, that's not okay, whatever. And he would like come back to me and then we would go back to playing Legos or whatever. And he wouldn't be crying. He'd be like, I stepped out of line, And
ceremonial spanking. It seemed like it didn't even hurt him.
Yeah, but I think there was a humiliation there.
Gotcha.
And
yeah.
it didn't seem that bad to me. Like I wouldn't have said that was beating their child.
Totally.
But it does qualify as that.
Totally. Yeah.
Corporal punishment, right?
So, but corporal punishment though is applied by someone who is not the parent, right?
Okay, yeah. I guess that's right. Like police and stuff, yeah.
Which I don't believe in that. Like, I don't believe that teachers should be hitting kids.
No. You hear the old horror stories about like Catholic schools where the nuns would hit people with rulers and shit.
Right. That's the experience my dad had in Catholic school. He got his ass kicked by nuns and the brothers and shit.
Does he have anything good to say about that?
No, nothing.
Okay.
And when I floated the possibility of going to Xavier High School, he was like, "There's no fucking way in hell."
Right. I remember you saying that.
Yeah.
Okay, but I want to hear your thoughts about this. Parents beating their children and then the different degrees of it.
So yeah, I mean, my childhood, I was not like hit really by my parents. Like, I think that I don't disagree with it necessarily. Like, I don't think it's okay to like brutalize your children. Like we both agree on. To really fuck your kids up seems like it's overboard. But this little spanking you were talking about, even just from a humiliation standpoint, that's an interesting thing worth exploring. But I think a little bit of, smacking your kids around, I don't think it's the end of the world personally.
Right. So for me, I think I can enact psychological warfare against my child that will be far more harmful and also effective than any spanking would be, right? I also know that my kids are going to be the shithead kids who are like too smart for their own goods, and if I ever spank them, they would call Child Protective Services and like present their case. You know what I mean? Like they'll know their rights.
That's very funny.
So I can't do that, but I do think I can. I think I'll be able to mentally wrestle with them and subdue them that way.
Well, I would hope so.
Like dealing with a heckler,
mentally. Yeah. No, for sure. I think, yeah, absolutely, man. But even there, man, like there's a threshold for what's appropriate and what's.
Of course,
sadistic.
I'm not going to tell my kid, you're a piece of shit and you're not going to amount to anything. Look at you, you're failing your long division homework. Do you know how easy that was for me? That's not what I'm going to do. I mean, I might do it. I might do it. Yeah, I might do it.
Dude, yeah, I don't know. I think
so. Will you potentially give a light spanking to your kids if they're out of line?
Like maybe, dude. I don't. I guess we'll cross over that bridge when we get there.
What if you're the mother of your children, your wife presumably, is super against it?
Then I won't. Then I won't do it.
Okay.
I think that I don't know if this is right or wrong, but this idea of the man putting his foot down thing, I have trouble imagining that being a thing in my household.
Yeah, that's not me either. But I guess what I could see happening is like, she's against it and you're like, absolutely, that's our united front. And then she goes away for, a girls' weekend and you're like, okay, kids, mom's gone. I'm about to spank you. And because of all the times that I've held back. Save up the spankings. I don't know.
The kids won't even have any concept of that. They're like, what are you talking? What is that? We don't understand that.
Get over here. It's time
Holding
for a beat down.
I mean, the kids would definitely narc, dude. Like I used to narc on my dad by accident. Like he let me watch the movie He Got Game. When I was like 12 or 13. Or I must have been younger. I must have been maybe 11 or something. And he's like, don't tell your mother. So we watched the movie and then I immediately told my mother. And he was like, dude, are you serious? Like, what's your problem? Like he was pissed at me, but he realized it was his fault for like thinking I could adhere to some sort of bro code. If you guys haven't seen that movie, there's some really raunchy sex scenes with Ray Allen and like Playboy bunnies and stuff.
Dude, there was my dad used to sort of do that too, though. Like when my mom would go away, very occasionally, we would make a point to go see, as he put it, ultra violent movies. Ultraviolence coming from what's it? Clockwork Orange
Oh.
was the term, but we didn't see that. We went and saw Jet Li in Kiss of the Dragon. And it was so violent, but it was so awesome. But we were in the movie theater, and my dad, whenever there would be like a scene of someone having their head beaten in, he would put his hand over my eyes.
Right.
And I was like, we're here. You brought me, you let me soak this in. You're going to cut out the whole point of this bonding exercise.
Right.
I don't want to just come watch a Jet Li movie for the dialogue. The guy barely speaks English.
That's funny, man. I remember having a similar, like, what is it about karate movies and stuff? Like, I remember seeing a Jackie Chan movie, Rumble in the Bronx, while I was too young. And it was like a similar sensation.
But Jackie Chan movies, like, the people die the same way that stormtroopers die in Star Wars.
No, dude, this one's the real deal. That's funny, though.
Yeah, they just, like one little laser and then they're dead. It's like, what's the point of even wearing the armor? But as far as every Jet Li movie I remember, like Rush Hour and all that stuff, there's no gore. Was there gore?
Well, that's Jackie Chan is Rush Hour, right?
Jackie Chan.
Rush Hour is PG-13, though.
You're talking about Jet Li? I'm
talking about Jackie Chan.
You are talking Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan movies, I don't remember them ever being.
But like Rumble in the Bronx, like his ones before, like Shanghai Nights, before he was like the funny karate guy. Before that, he had some like rated R ones. A bunch.
Interesting.
Yeah.
There was a movie he made where he like enacted vengeance on his daughter recently. That was actually pretty good.
I haven't seen it.
Had a little bit of a Taken vibe.
Oh, good. I love that.
Yeah, it was a little darker, kind of a more. Anyway, solid movie.
Dude, it's funny. I was watching Kill Bill the other night with my friends who I'm here with. And one of my friends, he claims that he's the best at predicting what happens in movies. And he's like pretty good at it, but also he's throwing out predictions the whole movie and he's swinging and missing.
That is so annoying.
I know. So he does that. But then at the beginning of Kill Bill, he's like, oh, I've seen this. And we're all like, oh yeah, we've all seen it. It's great. Let's watch it again. And then like he starts trying to predict stuff. And then he's like, called it. I'm like, dude, you've seen the movie. What the fuck is wrong with you? Isn't that infuriating?
Not impressive at all.
It's not impressive at all. And he's like, I'm the man. I'm like, dude, what the fuck?
How good is my memory? Just showing off his memory skills. Could have watched it like 2 weeks ago.
That's very funny, dude.
Fuck.
Very true.
Oh. All right. So we covered child abuse. And we covered Rich Brian. We covered the reader's submission. I know there are some other things I wanted to talk to you about, though.
Well, while you're thinking about it, guys, if you have any like would you rathers or like any of those kind of things that are good, send them. I'm like curious to see what people have up their sleeve. Because like the 10 million get hit by the train thing, I thought was a decent discussion, even though it seems like Francis's point of view is maybe prevailing on that one. It's still a worthy discussion. So if you guys have any good stuff brewing in your brains during this quarantine, let us know what you're thinking about.
There was a New York Times poll today that came out that said the question was it asked married couples who in the household was more responsible for the homeschooling of the children, and then a separate question asked like who's more responsible for the household duties, cleaning, cooking, etc. And they asked men and women separately, right? Mm-hmm. So the men, 39% of the men said they're more responsible. Oh, no, it was 45% of men said that they're the most responsible for the homeschooling. 39% of men said that their spouse was more responsible. 5% said that they had someone else come in and do it for them, like a nanny. And then 11% said they didn't know.
Wow.
And then on the women's side, 80% of women said they were the ones responsible for the homeschooling. 3% said that their spouse was more responsible. And then they also had the like not sure and nanny. I thought it was the dumbest poll I've ever heard in my life.
Why?
Because it doesn't tell us what percentage of American households are, being run by the women and the men. It just tells us what men and women think that
Right.
number is.
And the numbers don't add up either, very obviously.
Who's answering that poll honestly?
I didn't know. Yeah, dude. Seriously.
What a leading question that is.
Right. Yeah, right. By saying no, you're saying that you're negligent.
Yes. Yeah. No one's going to admit to their lack of effort. And I think women are, of course, going to say, and by the way, I suspect it's true, obviously. I bet they're definitely the case that women are more responsible for the homeschooling and they're doing way more than they should be. It's not fair and it's bullshit and that should be fixed. That's an antiquated structure of household in America. At the same time, a poll like that doesn't help.
Right.
It doesn't tell me anything. I don't even know why that's worth publishing.
It's
that's
not interesting.
Science. Yeah.
Right. There's nothing interesting about it.
Did you ever take statistics?
No, I never did.
I took one statistics class in college.
It's really
as a
hard, right?
way of getting out of my quantitative reasoning core requirement, and it made no sense. Dude, it was impossible. And lecture attendance was mandatory. They would take attendance. So I would come in, and it was always, I think it was 10 a.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And we would have morning conditioning sessions at 6 a.m. on those days.
Oh, God.
So I would go do my morning conditioning, and then I would shower and then run up, get breakfast as fast as I could, get to the lecture. And by the time 10 minutes into those lectures, I was falling asleep so heavily that I would lie down in between the rows of lecture seats and just sleep for the class. Way. Yeah. I got a B- in that class.
I heard that was a tough one, man. I did something that I don't recommend. I purposely made sure that I could avoid having to take any math in college.
Yeah, I tried that. How did you do that? There was no way out of it.
Dude, I ended up with some bullshit major is how. That I didn't give a shit about. I was too young to be in college, in my opinion. I didn't care enough. I didn't think I've talked about this before. I didn't become good at school until later. And I might as well, I should have just fucking taken the classes and really thought about what I wanted to do. Not just be I want to play tennis and have sex. That was the honest answer. I want to have sex and play tennis.
I need to save more time for all the tennis sex that I'm having. I'm getting so much sex from my tennis. So, but that's a normal thing that you just described. And I think that's definitely the case. But I still don't understand. Did BU not have some quantitative requirement that even if you were a funky major, you couldn't get out of taking some math or numbers class? I
think that it was difficult. And I think that I spent the time that I should have spent thinking about what I really wanted to do with my life, thinking about how
Ways
to not
around.
Dude, yeah, because I've never taken a calculus course, dude. In high school, I did the same thing. I slowed it. I took pre-calculus part 1. That was it. And I had a major that I didn't have to take math at all.
Dude, calculus is so hard. I find it so hard. And then you know what's annoying is that people either think it's really hard or they're like, oh, that was easy. Right. It just either makes sense to people or it doesn't.
Right.
There aren't a lot of people out there who are like, yeah, calculus was tough at first, but because I worked hard at it, I got better and it made sense. I just think it's totally binary. It's either it made no sense to me and I got by on, meeting with my teachers after class to make sure they thought that I was trying,
right,
doing my homework on time and just begging for help. But,
dude, I totally missed that memo. The you can show up after class for 10 minutes and look like you care and get a better grade. I just really never got that memo. It's so stupid.
Teachers are so egotistical. Hot take here, but if they think that you are making an effort to understand what they are presenting, they will look at you in a more favorable light.
100%.
My sophomore year of college, I discovered the incredible currency of scheduling office hours with my professors, with my teaching assistants. I even set up a tennis game one time with one of my English professors.
You dirty
I
dog.
found ways to bond with these people. And by the way, I didn't want to spend time with this guy. He was a loser. He was a loser. I didn't want to play tennis with my fucking English professor. But I did. And as a result, I think I got a B plus. That pissed me off because that class was the only one that kept me off of like what would have been high honors that semester. It was my best semester. I got a flat A, 2 A minuses, and a B plus. And the one class that I got a B plus in was the one where I'd gone the extra mile to play fucking tennis with the professor.
Unbelievable. Unfucking believable, dude.
I do think it generally it's worth like a full half letter grade or whatever bump up if you make the effort to get that FaceTime in.
Definitely.
So,
and dude, you know what? It's really like applying those principles. It's really incredible how important school really is for your life. Like if you go into high school and you just learn all this shit, not only does it apply to life, like after school, but if you don't do it, you kind of don't give yourself the opportunity to have an easy transition into adulthood. Like there are these easy things you can do, like just do well in school.
Mm-hmm.
It guarantees that it will be easier for you. Just do it. If
absolutely.
you don't, your life is going to be so fucking hard.
Yeah, I totally agree. I also agree, though, that lying on your resume about your GPA is fine like 98% of the time.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, dude. Like there's things going around about people who have 6-figure jobs who didn't go to college and lied about their resumes and stuff.
Dude, how many jobs did you apply for? And maybe we're different, but I applied for a lot of jobs where your GPA on your resume, where the job asked you for a transcript to back up that number.
Never.
I think it happened one time. And I applied for like 25 jobs.
Right.
Every other time, I could have just gone. I had a 3.31 GPA. I could have written 3.7 and nobody would have batted an eye.
Right.
And it makes a difference.
Especially in like those banking jobs. It really does.
Yeah. Damn.
Totally, bro.
Hey, last point I want to make. I spoke to an old student of mine that I tutored, who I'm still close to, who goes to USC, and he's a rising senior. He was abroad in Rome this semester.
Oh, wow.
And had to fly home, obviously, and self-isolate in a hotel room for 2 weeks.
Damn.
Couldn't leave after he came home, right? And finished out his semester at USC taking online classes and just being miserable. The USC offered the students the ability to either take a pass-fail grade or a letter grade. So like you can choose. You'll find out what your grade is, and if it helps your GPA, you'd accept that. Or if it would hurt, you could just take pass-fail and it won't affect your GPA. But he also said he still had to pay full out-of-state tuition for this semester, $35,000. His classes are meeting like once a week online.
Jesus Christ.
And it's pass-fail.
Isn't USC a private college anyway? Like a private university?
Oh yeah, so maybe
It's
that
expensive
out-of-state
regardless.
thing is
Doesn't matter.
He just told me $35,000. Whatever. They're next fall, if they come back, they may come back, and it could be more of the same. It could be more of this bullshit online class. And my kid is like, I don't even want, like, what's the point in going back? I don't want to pay full tuition for a completely fake virtual non-college experience.
Right.
No one would ever pay $35,000 a year to go to fucking University of Phoenix.
Well, unfortunately, people have, and they're morons.
Is that what their tuition is?
I think it was something that was insanely expensive at the time when like all the stuff started coming out about how much of a scam it was. Yeah.
Okay. Well, fuck.
Whatever. But
yeah.
Point made. And this is what I have to say to that. And this is, going to sound fucked up. But since, I have student loans and stuff, I don't feel bad saying it. If your parents are paying, then yes, it's worth it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, right. So here's my question, right? Because my counterpoint to him was, you're paying for the degree at this point.
Right. Exactly.
You have to look at it as, you paid $280,000 for a degree from the University of Southern California. You did not pay $35,000 a semester or whatever, a year for all those classes and stuff. But I don't even know if I believe in that.
Right. I feel
like, in that case, is there any point to education at all?
I think that yes, because I think that like you said, man, having that degree is really important. In my opinion, the most valuable part of the college experience is going there and being there and meeting new people, learning in a new way, learning how to learning so much shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that degree is very important, and not finishing because you have to do some weird year where you can't actually physically go is pointless.
Yeah.
Am I missing something? Like, can you defer?
No. I'm just trying to think about if there is a college, if it changes based on college, right? Because I had friends where, at Harvard, where they never went to class. And if they had been given the option of just forking over, $350,000 or $400,000, whatever it was, $300,000, and then being handed back a Harvard degree without going to a single class, without spending any time on the university, it would have been exactly the same effect on their professional trajectory and their life. Like, they wouldn't have missed much.
Right.
Whereas I needed the classes that I took and the experiences that I had to be where I am. And I know I've advocated for that before.
Yeah.
But does it change based on the college? And is each degree worth the same?
So I think that yes, and it depends. It's a person-to-person situation. For example, myself, if I had gone to one of the local schools that a lot of my friends from high school are going to, being there isn't that important because it's the same kids I grew up with. It's the same shit. Where I went to school, I learned a lot about different people and different places and the world in a way that I had never before. And sure, I'd gone to Italy a bunch, but I wasn't traveling. I was going and sleeping on my fucking grandfather's couch and in the guest bedroom, whatever. You know what I mean? I wasn't like, I didn't know about the world. And learning about all that ended up being an important part of who I am, blah, 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 blah. So I think that going, for me, absolutely was very important. However, if I was in the situation of your old student, I would still think that getting that degree is just the valuable and important thing. Not going back is stupid for him, especially as a rising senior. Come on, dude.
But I think he would take a semester off.
Oh, and then go back when it's normal.
Doing. Yeah.
Not a terrible call.
Not to mention, USC at best is going to have football in the fall that the fans cannot attend.
Right.
Which in all likelihood means that, the tailgates are not going to be on, frat parties won't happen, all that shit.
Right.
That's such a big part of the college experience for a big school like that. So. Right.
That is true. And everybody I know really loved all that stuff.
Yeah.
We didn't have a football team and I never was that, so I never got that into that whole thing, but
yeah, me neither.
But you're right. But that's also an important point. It's like culturally, it's really, a fun thing that you really will always remember and look forward to at the time, whatever. And not having it sucks, but a bunch of his peers who he's friends with and stuff are going to graduate. And then when he goes back, it's going to be different anyway.
Yeah. So I don't know. An interesting point. I don't envy the current college students in America because I think that's a very tricky thing to try to make a decision on, especially when you don't know how it's going to play out for your life,
Totally. It's a bummer, but what's a bigger bummer is not being able to breathe and dying in the hospital by yourself.
Bingo.
So let's put things in perspective. And even though it blows that you're missing out on a couple of semesters of school, hopefully you keep people alive and we'll get past all this shit.
Absolutely. And with that, we come to the close of another week of Oops, the podcast. Guys, we've had so much fun and we're really enjoying your engagement and thank you for listening as always. I'm Francis. He's Giulio. Please send your mistakes, your stories from quarantine, anything that you really want to tell us about to oopsthepodcast@gmail.com, or you can DM it to our Instagram account @oopsthepodcast. Any final thoughts, Giulio?
That's it, man. Enjoy your weekend. And, I hope you shoot some low scores on the course.
Hell yeah, brother. Talk to you next